Nintendo has solved the three biggest problems of the Switch 2, and this is no little feat. The fact that they've already made such a commitment to this system and they haven't even technically announced it is phenomenal and is such a good sign for our future as Nintendo fans and our future as, let's face it, Nintendo Switch 2 eventual owners. Good morning, Mario, and good morning, Switch fans. I am proud of Nintendo, and if you're proud of me and enjoy these videos, leave a like. It's a great way to show us some love and support. We're going to dive right into these three major problems that face Nintendo Switch 2 and honestly face any new console. And so it's up to the publisher to figure out a way, the platform holder, to figure out a way to mitigate these issues and to try to make the most of them. And we've seen these three problems defeat many consoles over our livelihood. Now, the three main problems are number one, supply and demand, number two, backwards compatibility, and number three, launch window games. All three of those can be massive death knells for a system that otherwise seems like it's starting off strong. You don't have the supply? Well, it doesn't matter if your system is great. Don't have the games? Doesn't matter if you have the supply. Don't have backwards compatibility? Transition is going to be tough. Each of these problems has varying degrees of difficulty in terms of correcting and beating, but we know Nintendo has made extreme efforts to try and fight this transition with all their hearts. They want to make sure that they don't have a Wii to Wii U. They want to make sure that they have a Switch to Switch 2, and that it's a new era where Nintendo is able to just double down on success and relive that success in the follow-up generation after setting all sorts of world records. So here's what Nintendo is doing newly to combat this, which is supply and demand. Furukawa addressed this directly, saying that they're going to try and sniff out all scalpers, just completely zip tie the ability for people to sell this Switch 2 for more on places like eBay, Mercari, OfferUp, Craigslist, etc. And the way they're going to do that is by making tons and tons of Nintendo Switches. Furukawa says, as a countermeasure against resale, we believe that the most important thing is to produce a sufficient number to meet customer demand, and this idea has not changed since last year. In addition to this, we are considering whether there are any other measures that can be taken to the extent allowed by laws and regulations, taking into account the circumstances of each region. So they're willing to go the distance and use the law to ensure that their system stays at MSRP and is as widely available as possible. They go on to say that shortages that impacted the Switch and semiconductors over the past few years are done, and they don't see any issue, and they're going to be able to produce a boatload of Switch, a boatload of Switch 2, and there won't be a problem. So there is Nintendo's solution for supply. Make a ton of them. And now that this has gone on public record and been discussed with shareholders, it's not something Nintendo can really go back on. In the past, some people have speculated, does Nintendo create artificial scarcity and be like, our system's sold out? Because that's a lot of hype, right? That builds a lot of media coverage and that builds a lot of want and demand where maybe you don't feel like you need the system, but once you find out it's sold out and you can't get it, there's like a humanistic hunger that just comes over you and you want to acquire it. But Nintendo is just determined to keep up their domination. They know there's plenty of people that want a Switch 2. There will be millions and millions of them, and all they got to do is make sure they have a console for them to buy. This is great news for us because you won't have to wait weeks and weeks for your pre-order to come in or for you to maybe get lucky and find a store that has it in stock. And better yet, you won't be paying $500, $600, $700, some sort of hugely exponentially upscaled price because you have to get it off of eBay or some other resale market. Now that's the first problem, supply and demand. Nintendo assures us that that is going to be covered. The second problem is backwards compatibility, and I believe we got our answer indirectly from Nintendo. The fact that they are pumping out so many major titles in the final year of Switch 1 tells me that they absolutely are going to be backwards compatible for the Switch 2. We've already heard rumors and leaks that yes, the new Switch system is going to be backwards compatible with current Switch games, but giving us Zelda, giving us Mario Party, giving us Mario and Luigi, giving us Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, giving us all of these games right before a new console speaks volumes in my opinion, because it says, hey, buy these games and then if you upgrade, you can play them. Or if you upgrade, you can still buy these new games. There's people that don't have a Switch that will buy a Switch 2 and will want to play the newest Zelda game or the newest Mario Party. They better be able to play it. And this to me just says backwards compatibility is going to be a given for Nintendo Switch 2. I mean, it would be silly not to. Nintendo knows how that's aired other companies in the past, and even themselves, they've had some issues, but for the most part, they've been pretty strong on it, and I expect them to do the same here. They want people to upgrade from Switch 1 to Switch 2, get their money off the hardware, and then continue to buy software whilst keeping their lineup that they already have and have already invested in, and not feeling like Nintendo cut them off or screwed them over for investing so much in the current Switch. To me, if Nintendo came out in the last Direct and was really winding things down, like maybe they dropped a Kid Icarus port, a Fire Emblem port, maybe they gave us, one morsel of a new eShop game, that would signify that maybe these titles, maybe they're not going to be intended to play on Switch 2. Maybe they aren't going to be backwards compatible. But I do feel like, even if it's not a guarantee, there is something to be said for Nintendo dropping major software right up to a launch of a new system and needing that software to carry over and needing that software, frankly, to be for sale. In a way, Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, Mario & Luigi Brothership, and Super Mario Party Jamboree can be leveraged as Switch 2 games if people didn't have a Switch 1 or if people just didn't pick them up at their initial release. You can kind of bake those into some sort of trailer and be like, okay, look, Switch 2 has Metroid Prime 4, Switch 2 has new 3D Mario, Switch 2 also has this Echoes of Wisdom game I haven't played yet. It's got this new Mario Party Jamboree I haven't played yet. And because your Nintendo account transfers over, even if you started playing these games on the last platform, you can continue playing them on our latest. I don't think we can 100% say backwards compatibility is in until Nintendo says it, but I do feel like this is even more proof and even more evidence that that's the direction this is all headed. And I would be absolutely stunned if Nintendo did not have a very fully fleshed out backwards compatibility plan for already existing Switch 1 games. So that takes care of supply and demand. That takes care of backwards compatibility. What about new games? What about exciting things to play on this new system that maybe you can't play elsewhere? Well, it seems like Nintendo is taking care of that. We know that Metroid Prime 4 is going to be there, probably as a cross-gen title. They've teased it out. It looks really good. It'll run the best and look the best on Switch 2. So even as a cross-platform game, it's something that can be most exciting on the new system. And we know that Nintendo has to be hard at work on a 3D Mario because there hasn't been another 3D Mario this entire generation. Odyssey came out back in 2017, and we haven't seen anything since, save for a little add-on for Mario 3D World in the form of Bowser's Fury. But it's more about the fact that this system was delayed, and the main reason given, based on the leaks, was that Nintendo wanted to ensure their first-party software lineup was stellar. They know that the name of the game is Nintendo franchises, and if you can get those early and often, you can be very successful. Nintendo is going to launch into this new system with not only Metroid Prime 4, but absolutely other top titles as well. Some have even predicted that a Mario Kart game could be ready to go in the first year. But regardless of which specific titles they are, the fact that Nintendo did not have to rush this system out, the fact that Nintendo was able to take their time, the fact that Nintendo has stayed away from many of their major franchises, save for one entry on this long Nintendo Switch journey, one Smash Brothers, one Animal Crossing, kind of like 0 Mario Karts, one 3D Mario. Yeah, there were 2 3D Zeldas, so don't expect that right out of the gates. But for the most part, Nintendo did save a lot of stuff for the Switch 2. They could innovate in new ways, bridging franchises into new genres, or even creating new IP, but Nintendo is ready to go heavy, and that is what is going to help this system shine at the start. I believe third-party support will be very strong given the power of the system, and a more comparable, easier way for other studios to port their titles to Nintendo Switch when already producing them for Xbox Series consoles and PlayStation 5. But I think at the end of the day, it's the first-party stuff that sells. The novelty of the handheld system is not as strong, although Microsoft and Sony still aren't doing it, PlayStation Portal aside. It still has appeal, but I think the big thing Nintendo needs here is games. And leveraging the backwards compatibility of this year's strong second half lineup, and then leveraging the awesome exclusives present at the Switch 2 launch window, it's going to be a really fantastic transition. Unless Nintendo makes some crazy decision that goes against everything we've seen leading up to this point and goes against the better interest of their rabid consumer base, I think they're going to have a super smart, super smooth, super awesome transition. It seems like they are trying to stamp out any possible fires and issues before they even arrive. Now, could something unexpected happen, like a massive Joy-Con drift issue or an Xbox Red Ring of Death issue? Yes, it could. But I think Nintendo knows how important this transition is, as they've echoed many times themselves. Therefore, the fact that they're taking measures to ensure supply is huge, and even threatening legal action against those who try to scalp their system. The fact that they have delayed this system, apparently, and moved it to 2025 to ensure that the launch lineup is as strong as they believe it needs to be, and maybe even then some. The fact that they have a really cool lineup leading into the Switch 2 so that there isn't a drop-off. There isn't a forget about Nintendo. There isn't a, oh my gosh, I think a bird just hit the window. Hope they're okay. That was kind of anxiety-inducing. Anyhow, they basically got it covered. That's what I was trying to say. I lost my train of thought, but they basically got it covered. They are preparing for this transition in a great way so that there's no drop off, there's no lapse, and they can just launch in, keeping their momentum, keeping the steam, keeping the supply, and not having people forget that, like, oh yeah, Nintendo is best in the business at creating first party titles. So let me know if you agree in the comments down below, and does that make you feel better about buying a Switch 2, knowing that your library could continue over, knowing that supply will be really great, and knowing that the launch lineup should be stellar? You feel good about possibly spending $400 or $450 sometime in Q1 or Q2 of next year. Let me know your take in the comments down below. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, stay positive out there. And until next time, SwitchForce out.